Hi, my YouTubers. I'm Dr. Jen. I'm so happy that you have joined me today by video. Our YouTube channel is My Life as a Landlord. Welcome. Today's episode 35, is all about a TV show that I was on in Canada about 10 years ago called Canada's Greatest Know-It-All. And you're going to learn about the TV show, and you're going to learn that I did not win. So this episode is entitled Not Canada's Greatest Know-It-All. Hope you have a laugh and maybe learn something. Well, hello. Welcome to My Life as a Landlord. I am Dr. Jen, and in today's episode number 35, An Other Salisbury Adventure, I get to tell you all about how I'm not Canada's greatest know-it-all. Now, for those of you new to the channel, I'm excited to tell you that we have 5 rotating topics that are both applicable in US and Canada, and they rotate in a predictable way. Last week was a real estate investment topic. Next week is a landlord topic. And so if you don't like the topic, just wait a week. Next Saturday, it'll be a different topic. So I was a know-it-all for the Discovery Channel on this TV show. It was kind of cool. So I get to tell you all about Canada's Greatest Know-It-All, the TV show. I will tell you about the bad guy and ultimately what I learned being on this TV show, which was really interesting. So let me tell you about this show. This show was on the Discovery Channel. It is Canada-based, but the show creator was trying to do an international pilot. So you'll see, well, actually you won't see, because unfortunately there are no episodes airing. So even if you Google Canada's Greatest Know-It-All, you won't find a whole lot. You might find a few interviews with some of the other know-it-alls, but you won't see any of the shows. There's kind of some bad blood that happened at the very end of this, but it was Canada-based, and so it was not specific to Canada itself, at least season 1. There was a season 2, but it started with 10 contestants who considered themselves know-it-alls. And the whole show was testing us and watching us fail, which is sad. But the show itself was a cross between Jeopardy, Mythbusters, Survivor, and there was an elimination aspect. Now, this was about 10 years ago, and so technology has changed a lot since then, but about 10 years ago. So there's a lot of local folks in Canada who might remember me from this TV show. Each episode had 3 challenges, and the loser of each of the first 2 challenges faced off in the 3rd challenge, and then the loser of that was eliminated. And some were individuals. Some challenges were done with individuals. Others were done in teams. And interesting show. So it was filmed in Hamilton, Ontario. 2 locations mostly. We had a quarry, like a rock quarry, that was outside, this humongous rock quarry, and they did some explosions and all kinds of things, lots of big equipment. And then there was a warehouse location. For those of you who are not familiar, Hamilton, Ontario is a steel town. So it's got lots of steel factories. And as a result, you've got lots of these gigantic warehouses that were dealing with all of the steel trade in Hamilton, Ontario. We used one of the warehouses to film the TV shows and these challenges, but we did use other remote locations as well. And so the 10 of us on season 1, there were 8 guys and 2 girls, me and another gal. And I was the only American. I was considered a landed immigrant at the time. And that's basically, for my US friends, that's basically someone who's got a green card. And so I was the loudmouth American hunter lady. Now, the show took place over 8 shows, 8 episodes, and I was eliminated at the end of episode 7. So I made it almost to the end of it. And then at the end of it, the whole idea here was that you would find out who is Canada's greatest know-it-all. And so by the time I was eliminated, there were only 4 of us left, and then I got eliminated, leaving 3 more folks that went into the finale, and then we did have one winner who was crowned Canada's greatest know-it-all. Now, what did he win? He didn't get any cash. The only cash that is given as a prize, for those of you who might have seen the show called Cash Cab, that's really the only show that gives out cash, but you get a trophy, a trophy. So it's a non-monetary award for being Canada's greatest know-it-all. Now, along the way, we did have a bad guy. His name was Carrie. And most of the time when you hear somebody say the word know-it-all, there is a stereotype that they're egotistical and dominating. I guess that's the stereotype that they can't be wrong. So Carrie was very much like this. He was not necessarily a team player. He was really not really fun to be around. And I, quite frankly, I felt sorry for him, but there is an air of an ego for the stereotypical know-it-all. And but the rest of us didn't seem to have that. The other 9 of us didn't seem to have that know-it-all, that stereotypical know-it-all air. And we would sit in between filming, we would sit in the green room, which is the room that's, you know, where everybody's sort of together, and while you're waiting to be filmed. And we would go, how can we use our knowledge, our collective knowledge of us, to benefit society? And we were talking about some of the big problems that are with society, about food and water and worldwide hunger and global climate change. And I mean, we were trying to tackle some big things here. And we really decided that it really started with the classrooms, and it started in our local areas. And so we all pushed back and said, you know what, when we get home, we need to take action in our local areas. And we did, which is actually kind of cool. But this gentleman, Carrie, oh my goodness, the 9 of us banded together. I guess there was already one elimination in episode 1. And then I ended up eliminating Carrie in episode 2. And as a result, the rest of us, the other 8 of us, really became quite bonded. We were always together, and the crew was not allowed to talk to us. The host was not allowed to talk to us unless we were filming. And so we were completely segregated from anyone else in the crew. They weren't allowed to tell us anything. Yeah, it was really interesting. And so I eliminated Carrie, but as a result, we had this incredible catalyst. This stereotypical know-it-all who I eliminated made the rest of us really bond, which is actually really cool. And I'm still Facebook friends with some of the other ones, some of the other know-it-alls from season 1. I know there's another Wayne from season 1. He actually made it all the way to the finale. He was also not Canada's greatest know-it-all, but he lives in the interior of British Columbia. What a wonderful guy. We still talk to him, which is really fun. And then what I learned about being on this TV show. You don't always get to pick on who is on your team. You never know what life's going to throw at you, what the world is going to make you adapt to, right? And so, oh, there's a dog barking. We're just going to hold here for a sec, and I'll tell you more about what I learned. Sorry, Sid, we'll just take a quick little pause. I know my YouTube video is running, but I want to wait till this guy leaves. And we should be getting past soon. And I think that that's done. Okay, so let's go back to what I learned. What I learned from being on this TV show, you don't always get to pick who is on your team, right? You don't always get to pick. You don't get to pick your family. You don't necessarily get to pick your colleagues. You never know the opportunities that get thrown your way, right? I ran across this casting call to be on Canada's Greatest Know-It-All. I didn't even know what that was. And I said yes. And I know my stepdaughter, Lil Jen, she had jumped in and said, look, you've got to do this. We don't even know what it is, but you've got to put your name in the hat to do this. And we did. And I remember when they interviewed me for being on the show, just in the original, you know, who's the 10 know-it-alls that we're going to pick. they were asking me questions in the interview and said, if you were going to build a spice rack for a blind person, what would your spice rack look like? And so I remember we actually, all the know-it-alls, we asked each other, we said, look, what's your spice rack look like? And so some of us had digital spice racks. My spice rack, I said, I want 3 shelves. Each shelf is going to have glass bottles with a screw on top with a little chain that's going to be connected to the glass part of it. There'll be braille on the glass part saying what the spice is. And then further, I'll have 15 or maybe 21 for the total of 3 shelves. But I want spicy stuff on the top, medium, not so spicy stuff on the bottom, like salt and pepper and cinnamon. And then on the bottom, flavorful stuff like curry, maybe some chili peppers, things like that. And so that was my spice rack for a blind person. And so they were trying to see how you were thinking. But had I not seized that opportunity to actually throw my name in the hat to be a part of this TV show, I would have never been able to try this. I mean, when do you ever get asked if you were going to build a spice rack for a blind person? Like when would you ever come up with that kind of stuff? And during the interview process, there was a lot of questions. Like, for example, they said, tell me, what is Aurora Borealis? Tell me all you know about it. And so I just did this brain dump about Aurora Borealis. And they were trying to see how you think. They wanted you to think out loud. And this was a reality TV show, right? And one of the things I learned was that it is a reality TV show, meaning you only get one take. You don't get a do-over. You don't get to say, you know what, I didn't like how I said that. And a lot of the time on this podcast, quite frankly, I just do it raw. I don't like editing unless I'm really coughing a lot, or like the dog that just walked by. I really try to just, warts and all, be real, because that is life. You only get one life. You only get one chance. And I liken it to the second Jumanji movie where they have the 3 things on their arm and they get 2 more lives. Well, no, we only get one life. And so just like one life in this TV show, you only get one take. As a result of being on this TV show, I made some amazing memories with some great people. I got to see some things I'd never gotten to see. I went to Toronto and went to the CN Tower. Never been there before. Went to Niagara Falls for the first time. I did get injured in the show. I had a stress injury. We were filming 6 days a week and we had Sundays off. I was away from Michael for almost a month, and it was really painful. I had a neck injury that was just, these muscles were just absolutely tightened up. And so I had to continue through the pain. I know some of my fellow know-it-alls weren't really big fans of that, but that was part of the drama of the show. So you have to kind of play into that, knowing that that's kind of the stuff they're gonna harbor in on. But we would go to dinner, all the know-it-alls together, especially once Carrie was eliminated. We all went to dinner every night together. And then as people got eliminated, whoever got eliminated, that was their last dinner with us. And so they got to pick where we went. And then the next day they would fly home or drive home. And so remember, the crew wasn't allowed to interact with us in any way, not even the host. So we would get up and we would go to breakfast, and then they would provide lunch on set. And then at night at dinner, we would have, we'd go to a fun dinner just there in Hamilton. And we were all staying in the same hotel. We all got our own rooms. They would come and get our laundry and do our laundry for us and bring it all back. But the biggest thing that I took away was that I never would have had this experience had I not thrown my name in the hat. So, I wanted to tell you about a few of the episodes in this. So we did, because, the episodes aren't airing. You can't Google this. They're not available. So let me tell you about a few of the episodes. So on the quarry, they had a limo parked in the center of the quarry, and it was sort of laid out like a football field, and the limo was in the very center of the football field, and the sunroof of the limo was open. And they told us a bunch of different information about a Cessna airplane that was going to fly over and drop a sandbag. And we were trying to tell the Cessna, whoever's going to drop it out of the Cessna, to try to get the sandbag into the sunroof of the limo. That was the challenge. And so we had to calculate the drop, the when we were going to tell them to drop it out of the plane. Okay. Well, so it comes time to film. Now, of course, we cannot watch the other, we can hear it, but we have our back to the filming, so we can't see it because we don't want to be able to see or hear anything. Well, we can hear the plane, but we couldn't hear what they were saying. So it comes time to do this challenge and this Cessna plane. Well, it's not a Cessna plane. It's a Lancaster bomber. I mean, there's only like 2 operating Lancaster bombers on the planet. And so it wasn't a Cessna that we were telling them to drop this sandbag out of. It was a Lancaster plane. And it was a huge deal, like a huge deal that we had this. It was really incredible that the show was able to not only get permission to use the plane, they did, I guess there was 7 of us or 6 of us. I don't remember how many know-it-alls were left at that time that we did this, but I was injured at this point. And so we had to do some calculations. And long story short, nobody got the sandbag in the limo sunroof. One of them got really close. I did okay. But that's, for example, that was one of the challenges. And then whoever was the furthest away from hitting the limo was considered the loser on that challenge. Further, we had a riverboat. No, it wasn't a riverboat. It was a power boat, like a speedboat on Niagara. Right around Niagara Falls. And of course, there was all these power generating folks, like the Westinghouse, Tesla, that was the whole idea with utilizing the power of the falls to convert it to electricity. And so after we did this riverboat ride, this Niagara Falls ride on this boat, on this huge boat, there was a quiz. That was the challenge, was the quiz about all the things this guy had rattled off to us, because we were always trying to figure out, okay, what's the challenge? We know there's a challenge in here, but remember, nobody was allowed to talk to us. They knew we were incredibly smart, which sometimes I was like, really, that's you guys are going to not tell us? Okay, fine. One of the other challenges that we had was we had to take a trebuchet, which is sort of like a launch pad thing, a trebuchet, and play basketball with it. Well, my team was terrible at it, but that was one of the challenges, is they made this huge basket, a 10-foot around basket, and we had to use our trebuchet to launch basketballs in there. Another one, they had frozen an entire skeleton worth of bones in a block of ice, and we had to remove the bones and then give the bones to our teammates to assemble as much as they could. In fact, it was the ice, chipping the ice, that hurt my neck finally. There was just straight up trivia contests. There was quite a real traffic accident scene that was, I think that's probably the only thing that you can see on YouTube or TMZ, is the accident scene. As you've got this accident, they had gotten all these paramedics to be actors in this really terrible, very real accident scene. And so and then they threw us in as a know-it-all and say, you are in charge of this accident scene. And it was traumatizing on quite a few people, including myself. And I ended up killing myself in that challenge, by the way. I ended up killing myself and I think 6 or 7 other people. I mean, it was really horrific. I lost that challenge. So a couple of the other non-traumatizing challenges were puzzles, like big wooden puzzles that we had to put together. We had to build a boat. That was a team exercise. Some of the know-it-alls had to build a plane. Some had to teach a lesson. We had to teach a lesson using a bunch of animals, like a rattlesnake, a snapping turtle, a tarantula. Oh, geez, I'm trying to remember what the other ones were. But there were 5 animals, and they brought this school bus. Literally, they drove a school bus into the warehouse, and it was all of the crew's kids that were a part of this lesson. So they would unload the school bus. The kids are in the classroom, and we would walk in, and we had 10 minutes to teach a lesson about these 5 animals. And it was really incredible. I actually did pretty good on that. I'm pretty happy about it. So There were several other episodes. There was a season 2 of the show, and season 2 I thought was really a lot more refined, let's say. So they did a sort of like an escape room in season 2, where they were thrown into a house and there had been a murder at the house, and they had to figure out all the clues of why and the motive. And I mean, it was really neat that they were looking at the computer and they were looking at all the artifacts, and there was blood on the ceiling, and it was really theatrical. But they were thrown into this situation, and they said, figure out what happened and, you know, go. And so they did. The other thing they did that I thought was super neat was they went skydiving. They went skydiving, and they had these gigantic letters on the ground. And so the know-it-alls had to jump out, memorize the letters on the ground. And then when they got on the ground, they had to remember the letters and untangle them to form a word, and or as many words as they can. I forget the exact challenge. In season 2, they also had to learn how to knit. If you can imagine, I don't know how to knit, but they brought in a world-class knitting expert, and they taught the know-it-alls how to knit. And then they had a challenge based on the knitting, which was really cool. So anyway, I digress. This is another Salisbury Adventure podcast, so you never know what you're going to get. But the whole idea, I wanted to tell you about this TV show. I wanted to let you know how this bad guy had bonded the rest of us and made some incredible memories. And then all of the things that I learned was really neat takeaways. Here's my call to action to you, to all of you. And I'm looking at the camera on my YouTube channel, My Life as a Landlord, if you'd rather watch this. Call to action. You must say yes to the next opportunity that scares you. The next opportunity that scares you, whether you see it in your Facebook feed or you see an ad in the paper, or somebody's talking to you about some opportunity that could be something that you can try. Say yes. You never know what is going to happen. You never know what's going to be the result. Things will happen, and you're going to be so excited that you tried it. Even if you fail, right? I'm not Canada's greatest know-it-all. Am I considered a failure? Not at all. Not at all. So as we come to a conclusion for this week's episode, let me know your comments and questions on our Facebook group, and also in the YouTube comments for My Life as a Landlord. And just remember your questions. And oh my goodness, that dog's starting again. Ooh, sorry. We're just going to hold here for another second. That darn dog. For the next recording, I will shut my window. Oh my goodness. Mac, you behave. Okay. Okay, here we go. Just remember, really? You never know what's going to happen. You just got to roll with it. Just remember, your questions and your comments create the next podcasts. I do take all of the questions and comments seriously, and that rolls right into the next podcast. Next week's podcast topic is a landlord perspective. That'll be episode number 36. And I'll be talking about Standard Forms 101. You have got to hear this one. I will see you next Saturday. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching today. I'm excited that you joined me to learn all about Canada's greatest know-it-all. I really wish I still had contact with the show producers, because there is lots of other things that I'd like to do, and maybe have a Canada greatest know-it-all reboot or some kind. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.